May 1st is generally when Beltane is celebrated. And it's a fire festival. So the celebration of light and fire and purification. There's also a fertility element.
This is an intentional balancing of masculine and feminine energies. This is an intentional coming together, an intentional support for that masculine and feminine, that divine masculine and feminine. And it celebrates that coming together of those energies.
Welcome to the Feminine Alchemy Podcast, where we explore the truth about the feminine, the peaceful, the wild, and the visceral. I'm your host, Jaye Anne, joined by my co-hosts, Julie Dean Richards and Kayelee Rose. Each week, we explore the deep mysteries of the feminine and help listeners apply them to their daily lives in a practical way. Join us to unlock the hidden wisdoms your soul has been waiting for.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Feminine Alchemy. I am your host, Jaye Anne, and we're here. Kayelee Rose is here with me, and we are going to talk about another holiday, Beltane.
Yay!
So before we get started, we've got to have a get to know you question. And Beltane is the divine marriage holiday. It's the day of stepping into sensuality and grounding into all of that fun stuff. So tell us, if you want to, you don't have to, because I'm just bringing this on you now. Tell us about some of your favorite things you did for your wedding.
Ooh, okay. So my wedding was such a beautiful day for so many reasons. And I think so before we started, I was telling Jaye Anne that we had every kind of weather imaginable just about on our wedding day. From like really bright hot sun to like hail and a rainstorm and crazy winds, and then more calm weather. And one of the things that I absolutely loved the most about my wedding was how we rolled with the punches. Like it was okay. Like it was okay that we didn't get to put up like the tents that we had planned on for people to sit under to eat because it was too windy, and it was okay that it was raining and some people had to go inside. And one of my fondest memories is just putting on my purple raincoat over my like beautiful wedding dress that my grandma made for me and dancing in the rain with my husband, with my friends, with whoever wanted to. And in so many ways, that experience of having so much variety in weather in one day has been kind of this mirror for my life since getting married, where it's like we've had some crazy things happen and some unexpected things happen, but also there's been a lot of celebrating, even in the times when normally you wouldn't think of it as a time for celebration. Like not everybody wants to dance in the rain. Not everybody gets excited seeing little hailstones coming down, especially on a special day. But that was a huge, just a hugely influential experience for me and something that I go back to often. But yeah, that's the main thing that comes to mind is adapting to the weather.
I love it. That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, mine was also really fun, also outside. I was 20 weeks pregnant. And that wasn't the reason that we got married. It was just I started planning a wedding and I was like, oh, great. I'm going to need several fittings of this dress before I can even come to the day. And my body kind of like held it together until that point. And then on the Monday afterwards, it was like, bam, like I could not fit my wedding dress on the following Monday. Just would not have happened.
Your body was so polite.
So polite. So polite. Also, it was 2020. So the guest list kept changing. So once again, like you were saying, adapting to those things, adapting to like people being like, I can't come, or I'm not comfortable coming, or yay, I can come. And, all of that stuff going on. It worked out great, but it was a total overhaul every like 3 times from the time of invitation to the time of the actual wedding, which is fine. It actually 2020 took like a lot of the pressure off, like a lot of the pressure, because it was just like, yeah, if you can't be here, you don't have to be here. Also, like, out of respect, I'm not inviting you if I don't want to. Like, there was a lot of just grace, which was cool. Yeah, but I definitely was barefoot, and I had my dress painted blue. That was one of my favorite things, like on the inside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
It was so fun. And my mom, she grew hops. She grew hops just for the decorations. So she spent the entire summer growing hops.
Oh my gosh.
Which makes these very long vines that have like lots of lush leaves and these pretty little cone-shaped flowers. And so she did that for all the tables and things like that, which was really fun. Really fun. That was a great time. Everybody had a great time. So, and it's in September. So that is our get to know you question. So let's talk about Beltane. Let's start with the origin of Beltane and what we're celebrating when it comes to Beltane. When is it? And what did people used to do? And we'll get into more, what can we do today? I mean, you can celebrate the way they used to if you want to, if you can find all the people for that. But
and the cattle.
I think you want to. If we had all the people, yeah, get them together. But what is it for, and what did we used to do?
All right. Well, starting off, May 1st is generally when Beltane is celebrated. And it's a fire festival. So the celebration of light and fire and purification. There's also a fertility element. But it was originally the celebration of the god Bel. And he was, would be a Celtic sun god. Yes, Jaye Anne?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And part of celebrating this involved like having 2 gigantic bonfires, and you would like herd your cattle through them as a purification process. And then also there would be the maypole, which some of you probably have heard of, because that tradition has lasted longer than herding your cattle through the bonfires.
Yeah.
Understandably. But the maypole would be usually cut down by young men, and then like a tree would get cut down by young men and then set up. And the pole was a phallic symbol, so a representation of male fertility, and ribbons would be attached to the top, and half of the dancers that were attached to the other end of the ribbons would dance one direction, and the other half would dance the other direction, and they'd like weave in and out. And this was intended to be symbolic of the forces of life and death, and also this marriage of masculine and feminine energy. Jan, do you want to talk about the sacred marriage component of this?
I love it. I love this so much because you don't hear about this enough. We don't hear about this enough of like, this is an intentional balancing of masculine and feminine energies. This is an intentional coming together, an intentional support for that masculine and feminine, that divine masculine and feminine. And it celebrates that coming together of those energies, because where we are in the light cycle is we're halfway between spring, the beginning of spring, the equinox, and the solstice, the summer solstice. So we're kind of in that in between period there, and we're more light than dark, right? Mm-hmm. Like with Imbolc, we're more dark than light on that side of it, but we're more light than dark on this one. And so we're in the light. We're bringing them both together. And the cool thing is, this is the time that again, we're having this, just like Samhain, we're having this thinning of the veil. So again, we're coming together. There's like a lot of magical energy, and it's on the brighter end of things as the sun is returning. And there's there's actually something called a flower bride, and one person, and they would act this out, or it would just be a story that was told. But it's kind of the concept of like this woman is the goddess, and she goes between these two different men representing um, again the dark and the light, like the cold, the winter and the summer, and it would be either two different gods, or like two different archetypes, like a hero archetype and a warrior archetype, things like that. Which is why it's most commonly known. This is like people's favorite festival because it's associated with sexuality and with coming of age for the maiden, of like, okay, I'm ready, I'm officially a woman, I can do that, I can be considered for marriage, right? This is like that time of year when all of that is happening. So that is that. Some other goddesses that are associated with this are Brigitte, Venus, Freya, and Flora. So again, lots of fertility, lots of purifying, lots of associated with the earth growing up, like coming out of the earth, things coming out of the earth, things like that. Yeah. So have you ever celebrated Beltane?
So I've actually only celebrated Beltane once, and it was last year, and I didn't know a lot about it, but I was like, I'm going to celebrate this. I'm going to see what happens. And so I knew about maypoles, and I was like, I don't really have something that will work like a maypole right now, but let's adapt. And so I got my kids and my husband, and we got ribbons. And ironically, the only ribbons we could find were these ribbons that said like it's a boy on them, that were like for a baby shower or whatever. And the irony of this is that I am now currently pregnant, and I don't know that it's a boy, but I have this feeling it's probably a boy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But so we got these ribbons, and we were like, okay, we're going to write down like what we're so excited about. And we're going to write down what we want to be so excited about in the future, like what we want to have coming. And we're going to write it on these ribbons. And then we tied them all over the trees in our yard, which is our version of attempting a maypole when we had no maypole. And those ribbons are actually still there. We haven't taken them down. So probably for this Beltane, we'll probably take them down and try to read them. I don't know if they'll be legible anymore. But it'll be fun to see if any of that is still readable.
That is so cool. It was like you were beckoning your child in.
Yes.
During a fertility festival.
Yes, exactly.
That's great. It's funny. I have never actually celebrated Beltane or even May Day, right? They're pretty much the same holiday, subtle nuances, but one begat the other, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I always remember on our calendars, like it doesn't have it now, but I always remember on our calendars growing up, May 1st, May Day. I was like, what is May Day? As a kid, and I had like all the and somebody either found out about it or somebody explained it to me, and I was like, why are we not doing this? Like, and I felt all of this like emotional pressure to like celebrate this holiday that I had no context around. And I don't even think like my mom even knows that I was like, oh, we have to celebrate May Day. I have no idea what to do. And I always felt like this sense of like guilt, and not so much guilt, but like longing, or like, shoot, yeah, I missed out. I didn't do that. Maybe next year I'll do that. Like
maybe this sense of loss almost.
Yeah. So that's probably something on the docket for me this year.
You finally get to celebrate.
Maybe. Oh my gosh. So if we're going to do this in our own home in a smaller way, what are some good ways that we could actually work with this energy?
So one thing that I know that Julie has done, and she couldn't be here with us today. We were so bummed, and so was she. But something that she has done with her family is creating flower crowns.
Mm.
And that's a very simple thing. And even if you don't have like a lot of flowers around you to pull from, you can braid grass and make yourself a crown. Um, and it's kind of this combination of like celebrating the fruits of what has come forth already in the spring,
Mm.
the fertility of the flowers and of nature, um, and eating honey, like just adding honey to your food can be a really awesome way to celebrate that like lusciousness that is Beltane,
Mm.
and that like fertility and the sweetness of life, and the fruits of what has come forward thus far in the year.
So good. So good. Oh, flower crown. You know, it's funny. I also have just been at a soccer game and oh, I'm gonna braid some grass and make an unnecessary flower crown out of clovers. Why not?
It's so meditative, like
Yeah.
surprisingly so.
So let's talk about the snacks because we have to do that. You already mentioned honey. There's so many things that you can eat at Beltane. What are some things that you enjoy? You want to tell everybody?
So one thing that like stands out to me when I think of snacks for Beltane is bannock, which is essentially like an oat cake. And I actually made a bannock for the first time earlier this year, and I was surprised. It was so simple, but also like so yummy.
Mm.
And so that's probably something that we're going to be making again for this for Beltane. But another thing that's really simple is like fresh berries.
Mm.
I love fresh berries. You can drizzle some honey. We'll go back to honey again over your fresh berries. Add some cream if you want. Just so, so good. And a big component of Beltane, whether we're talking about food or talking about something else, is the senses. This idea of sensuality, of being very in your body and connected to like what do things taste like? What do they sound like? What do they smell like? And so whatever snacks you are eating, even if it's not like a Beltane specific food, I invite you to get really present with your senses. Smell it first and notice, like, does your mouth start to water as you're smelling it? Are there other reactions in your body as you smell it? Look at the food. Um, like, savor it, eat it
Mm.
slowly. Notice how the flavor maybe changes. Um, I know that if you are an alcohol drinking person, mead or herbal wine can be an important part of Beltane. And then breads, but especially breads that have seeds. I personally absolutely adore seeded bread. It's like one of my
Mm.
favorite things ever. Got to add lots of butter and then add some honey because we're just going to harp on honey today. And then also spring greens, the greens that have come up already, that tend to be really refreshing. They're an important part of Beltane. Do you have other snacks or foods that come to mind for you for Beltane?
Yeah. Yeah. I love a good, oh my gosh. Somebody's gonna make fun of me. Somebody's gonna make fun of me
I
in my
won't, I promise.
house. I
Oh, in your
know.
house?
Because my husband's of the mind that we need perfect grass, like golf grass, right? And I love the dandelions. And so it's not completely at odds, but there's some moments there. So we were doing yard work and I pulled up a dandelion, like greens and all, and I was like, here's a salad, right? That's to me like the classic Beltane.
Yeah.
Dandelion greens, violets, all of those yard weeds that you're like, wow, my yard is like Easter egg colored. All of a sudden, if you don't spray it, it's what comes up, right? The violets, the dandelions, and um, all those fun things. But also like a lot of edible flowers. So if you have, so I have bachelor's buttons, and I've had this happen year to year as they they pop up first and they grow up within like 30 days and they'll show up right there and you can eat the flowers. They taste like cucumbers.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nasturtiums are another edible flower, but lots of edible flowers are actually for Beltane because, again, we're celebrating fertility and the flowers bring the fertility. The flowers are where that all starts. So if everyone in your world is like having allergies, like now's a good time to eat some flowers because they're there. You know they're there.
Yeah. Get your dandelions and your pansies.
Yes. Oh, I forget pansies are edible, and so are red clover. Red clover, when you cultivate it, is so beautiful. Like it's got these long flowers, but they're going to be coming up later in the year. But edible flowers are a big deal. They're a big deal for the snacks. What else was I going to say about that? Yeah, ramps. Okay, if you're in the Appalachian areas, right? Ramps grow wild. You can't really cultivate them. It's not really a thing. But ramps are like garlic flavored spinach and they're so tender. They're so good. Like the top part tastes like spinach and the bottom part is like green onion, but stronger. But it's like onion spinach on the top. And so they're so good. They're so good. They only grow wild and they grow in like really wet areas, like along riverbanks and stuff like that. So any kind of wild greens are going to be the thing that you're going to have. Arugula, like think of all of the really flavorful greens, right? Arugula is spicy. It's got that pepper flavor. Endive has got that bitterness, like all these different flavor. Dandelion is super bitter. All of these different flavors are coming together and going along with that sensuality, that sensation and like experience that Kaylee's talking about here. I think that a lot of times in modern society, we want things to be so consistent that we've removed all of these variations on a theme, and retraining our taste buds during Beltane is a beautiful way to take advantage of it.
Yeah, that is a beautiful way to take advantage of that. And another thing about all those greens is that so many of them are supportive of like detox pathways and like the purification of your body. And that totally falls in line with the purification kind of focus. It's so fascinating that it's like this fertility and party, but it's also this purification. And those greens can really be supportive of that.
100%. Yes, I was thinking that too. Just this like juxtaposition of purify and sensuality, sexuality, like those things together is wild. It's just, to me, it's just such a cool blend of things.
Well, and it challenges the notion that that they are mutually exclusive. It's not mutually exclusive. Sexuality can be incredibly purifying. Like sexual experiences can be incredibly healing and purifying, and our senses and our bodies, like they've been vilified for so long, but there is a sacredness and a divinity in these like seemingly mundane earthy things. And I think Beltane can be this beautiful opportunity to reconcile that, to kind of heal the wedge that's been culturally pushed between this like purity and purification and sexuality and sensuality.
Thank you for saying that all in a row, because I think I have too many ears to say that out loud here, and I'm so glad that it came out of your mouth. And that brings me to the crystals involved here, because a lot of these have to do with just what you talked about, that blend between sensuality and purification, right? So we've got rose quartz. Rose quartz is about unconditional love, right? Like that's the unconditional love stone. And when you use it, you have a really like feeling sensation of like unconditional love, but it also like cleanses out any junk that's in your system energetically that you don't need, because love is purifying, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about green aventurine?
Yeah. So green aventurine is really powerful for attracting both love and luck. And something that I think sometimes people forget is that the color green is associated with the heart chakra. A lot of times people think, oh, pink and red, but green is very, very vital to that. And there is a certain vitality and a freshness and a growth that's associated with green. And for love to be purifying and for it to be sanctifying, there is this degree of growth and also this verdantness. There's this fertility there. And I think green aventurine supports all of that together.
I love it. Also on this list, carnelian, of course, which is associated with the sacral chakra. So lots of creativity happening here. And again, love and money, right, all kind of run on that same line.
Yeah.
Because creativity is how we create new things, which is how we create money, which is how we create abundance. So carnelian is an excellent stone to work with for Beltane. And it's red, which is mostly the color of Beltane.
It's so beautiful. Um, one crystal that I came across, it's kind of like you can use it in all use cases, is clear quartz.
Of
And
course.
like it's so versatile, so versatile. But using it to amplify your intentions that you set during Beltane, amplify that purification, amplify that connection to sensuality, amplify a healthy and empowered connection to sexuality, whatever that may look like for you. Just very much that amplification component of quartz could be very helpful during this time.
I love that. I love that. And I just have to give a little shout out to rhodochrosite, because it's similar to rose quartz, but I love rhodochrosite because it's a little bit more of a syrupy, sweet version of rose quartz. And I always think it looks like pink starburst.
Pink starbursts might be the best starbursts. They might be.
Starburst is not a Beltane snack.
No, it is not. But if you were to eat it on Beltane, just make sure that you involve your senses.
That's right. Involve your senses. Oh, okay. So let's talk about some colors. We talked a little bit about this already, but green and red, but not in isolation, right? Like when we think of Yule, we've got green and we've got red for like starkly, like these are opposite on the color wheel, but we've got green, red, yellow, purple, blue. And this is red is for like vitality and fire. Green is more the green growth that's happening. And then we've got all the rest of the colors because of the flowers, because of this really cool, just like display of flowers that shows up. What are some thoughts that you have on the colors?
Well, a color that I don't think you mentioned that I came across was white. And with white, like there is that symbolic purification, but there's also this like white hot of the fire. And fire can be so purifying, and it can be warming, and it can be sensual. It can be all of those things. And I think that white really ties in to that. Also, something that I meant to mention earlier and then I totally forgot about, but talking about white reminded me, is that like, okay, in most Western cultures, at least that I am familiar with, white is associated with marriage. And Beltane is intended to represent the sacred marriage between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And actually, the month of May used to be set aside as like, nobody gets married. That is for the sacred union. That's when we celebrate the divine masculine and the divine feminine coming together. The god and the goddess, they get married in May. You humans, you do not get married in May. And that was why there were so many weddings in June, because May was off limits as far as human marriage went, and you celebrated the masculine and the feminine and the coming together of the masculine and feminine. And then in June, it was like, okay, humans, let's get married, because we just had this really awesome experience in May. And now let's go engage in our own rites of fertility and our own coming together of masculine and feminine energy. And I just love that white kind of ties that all together, wraps it up with a bow.
Literally, because marriage was also called hand fasting. So you would the action, you would put one hand over the other and you tie it up. You sometimes see this in like movies about olden times back in Europe, right? But people still do it today. It's been a resurgence of that, and like you literally like, and you tie it with a bow.
That's how you seal the deal with a ribbon.
Oh, I love it. What are some things that, like, if you're going to put it all together, right? What are some things that people could do, not just in small ways, but if you were going to create like a ritual from some of these things or an altar, what do you think would be a fun way to put these things together?
That's a really good question. My thoughts are going to like, okay, can you create a ritual or an experience that engages all of your senses? Like maybe get a hold of some flowers that you love the smell of. Maybe get some food that you love the taste and or the smell of. Find something beautiful. Maybe play some music or listen to chimes. I absolutely adore wind chimes and like the sound of running water. And so fountains and stuff like that, I love so much. But just like bringing these things together that bring joy to you through your senses, maybe a fabric that you just love to touch, bringing them all together in an altar space, or just giving yourself permission to explore those things, I think can be very, very powerful. And it's something you can do by yourself, but it's also something that you could invite your family to do with you. If you wanted to have more people, if you wanted to have a big party, I would say there needs to be a bonfire.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can come up with some variation on the maypole, even if you don't have a pole that you can dance around, like dancing around just with ribbons could totally be acceptable and could be a lot of fun. Do you have any ideas for all of that, Jaye Anne?
I love this. This is so fun. I think I'll talk about an altar, right? I don't think we talk about altars enough in here. So I think it'd be fun to have an altar that has like all kinds of flowers, and then you could have some offerings that are like honey and all the different snacks that we talked about. And then I love this, like engage your five senses. Yes, absolutely. So some music or sounds that you love, and creating an experience around an altar could be at an even smaller way. And of course, we're going to have some rhodochrosite on there, and some carnelian and some quartz, and maybe like a figurine or a picture of one of the gods or goddesses. And then something that's like really like meaningful to you, something that represents, I don't know, something you believe in, or something that like creates a deep connection with you, and just allowing that to sort of simmer and create a magical experience within that altar. It's really like, I feel like it would be very rejuvenating and very bringing that fire back into your body.
I love that.
Oh, and you got to have candles, lots of candles.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Of all colors, like lots of colors for candles. I love it. What's one thing that you want to leave our audience with as we finish up this episode on Beltane?
What pops into my head right now is that if you're wanting to bring kind of an astrology spin on this whole experience, you could look at your own chart for where your Mars is and where your Venus is, because people tend to look to those two for matters relating to sexuality and to sensuality, because and Mars is like the quintessential masculine energy, and Venus is the quintessential feminine energy. But I would also suggest that you look at where the asteroid Vesta is, because Vesta is connected to that purifying flame and to hospitality, but also to sacred sexuality. This idea that sexuality is this sacred, beautiful, empowering thing, and that you have the sacred sexuality within you that is your creative energy. And you don't need another human being to access it. And you don't have to express that sexuality in any particular way for you to be empowered by it and for you to use it in your life.
I love this. I love this. My Mars and Venus are directly across from each other. So I was like, oh, yeah, that's hilarious. I love the astrological piece. I couldn't have said it better, or even close to where you were going with that. It was so great. It was so great. I was just like absorbing it. Yeah, just use your five senses. Get into the moment. And I think that a lot of people right now are struggling with anxiety, and celebrating this holiday by using your five senses is a great way to actually combat that by being in your body. Most of the time when we're dealing with things like anxiety, it's because we're trying to not be in our bodies. And so let's get back into our bodies and it will be so much smoother.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Well, thanks so much for this fun little chat, Kayelee.
Yeah, thank you. I had fun.
Yeah, so fun. All right. Well, everyone have a great week and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Please make sure to give us a 5-star rating wherever you are listening and share with someone you know. See you next week.